5 days in, and the Prime Minister's great New Year reset has already been plunged into total chaos.
He was out of the loop on Venezuela. He's welcomed an anti-Semite into the country. And although the PM says he's going to keep his job, there are already plots to bring him down. He predicted that he would still be in the job in 1 year's time.
Do we agree with that New Year's prediction?
I just think it's so funny.
I know.
That is the height of your aspiration. Imagine bringing home a deadbeat to meet your parents, and they say, "How are things going career-wise?" I believe I will still be in this job in 1 year's time.
Happy New Year, Tim.
Happy New Year. How was your holiday?
Very nice, very chilled. Remained at home, did very little. Was going to bake with phyllo pastry. The phyllo pastry's still in the fridge. It was all, I would say, very low on the blood pressure measure.
Yes.
Apart from Christmas Day itself, where some food was produced by me and my sister-in-law, as if by magic, frankly. It all came together after we'd been in the pub for an hour, which I thought was no mean feat. The only time I've had some issues that may have required a defibrillator was taking my 17-year-old daughter out as a learner in her car.
Oh, wow.
Now, we have given her 4 intensive 4-hour blocks of lessons, so she's up to 16 hours.
Does she think she can pass in one go? Is that why?
We hope she can.
Right.
Not least because you have to wait several years for a date to come through because of the DVLA. It's quite hair-raising taking a teenager out driving. We had a little incident yesterday in the village next to ours where I said turn right at a roundabout, and she translated that into almost ploughing into a lovely lady in a Kia coming in the opposite direction. So I then did that thing of like, I'm holding onto the dash anyway. Brake! Brake! And my son is also in the car. We're like, there was a row. Apparently, Dad is better at accompanying the learner driver than Mum is.
Yep.
She stormed back into the house, and my son turned to me and said, "Oh my God, we were nearly killed."
It's also bad weather to learn how to drive in.
Yeah, well, it was great because the roads were so empty between Christmas and New Year. But then when the roads became icy, that did add an extra layer of, in my case, hysteria.
Yes.
Because I was basically advocating her driving at 5 miles an hour in third. And they have to learn. I've made her learn as a manual driver, even though she'll probably always drive automatics, because I think if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. How was Prague?
Well, this Christmas I mostly ate Pringles and watched television, but
Lovely.
I did take a holiday to Prague. Lovely city, very beautiful, packed full of tourists. Very much a party town.
Yes, people go there on stag do's and things.
I took my mother and I said we should go to a medieval dinner, which was advertised in Prague.
That's such a you thing
Because
to do.
I had been to one in Estonia, it was really nice, but this is how I learnt the difference between a medieval dinner and a medieval themed dinner.
Right.
So the one in Estonia was a medieval dinner where you were served an authentic menu by a lady dressed in a medieval costume, and you were serenaded by people playing authentic medieval instruments, which they would explain to you how they worked afterwards. By contrast, the medieval themed dinner we had in Prague is very different. Medieval themed means you're served chicken and chips by a man dressed as a jester.
How was that?
It was all right.
Yeah.
I mean, the chicken and chips was very nice, but halfway through there was a performance of traditional sword fighting by pirates. And they played the Pirates of the Caribbean theme music while they did it.
Wow.
And as you say, wrong century, but also Prague is landlocked.
Yeah, that doesn't
I didn't
make
think
any
there were
sense.
many Czech pirates.
So look out for the word themed.
I could be wrong. I left my dog behind, and you could trace what was going on through the photos on Facebook, and it was heartbreaking. It's a
what
very
did Bertie's little face say to you?
It's a very nice kennels, and they put up these photos saying X having a great time, X rolling in mud, etc. But every photo I looked at, I could see him thinking, "Where's Dad? Are you coming home, Dad? Should I speak to the camera and ask Dad, please come home?"
Well, we had a few issues with Baroness Lionel of Blair, our cat, over Christmas because she was not eating with the enthusiasm she usually does. Then I took her to the vet. It turned out to be the wrong vet, but that's another story. And she was diagnosed with a case of gingivitis.
Oh.
And so I've subsequently been brushing her teeth. I'm not sure if you've ever tried to brush a cat's teeth.
No.
It's really very hard, and they don't cooperate, funny enough.
No.
You know, cats don't cooperate generally. So she's got her jaw just wired shut as I am, and I've got this special brush on the end of my finger.
Yes.
With some toothpaste that smells horrific, but apparently
Yes.
cats quite like it.
Yes.
And I'm trying to force it. It's not going well. I think I
Yes.
might need to actually just take her back to the vet, have her put out, and have her teeth professionally cleaned.
Yes.
But I put that off because it's about 500 quid and
Yes.
it's been an expensive Christmas, as it always is.
Bertie, my dog, uses a meat-flavoured toothpaste, which is disgusting. But I get around it by just using bones, I'm afraid. Brushing his teeth, he won't comply, so I just play the bone game with him, where I hold the bone and he tries to get the bone off me, and this can last up to 60 minutes. And it does a pretty good job of cleaning the teeth.
Yeah, if I held a bone up to Lionel, she would look at me with an air of complete contempt and just walk away. And that is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between cats and dogs. Shall we talk about Keir Starmer, who's making, frankly, a dog's breakfast of his New Year reset?
It's a very unhappy New Year, isn't it?
Well, he thought it would be happy. He was writing countless op-eds over the weekend.
Yes.
Channeling his inner Brian Cox from D-Ream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was, I think, on the keyboards once, and now he talks about the stars and the fate of the universe. Anyway, he was saying, Keir Starmer, things can only get better.
That builds upon an interview he gave to Laura Kuenssberg, in which he predicted that he would still be in the job in 1 year's time.
Do we agree with that New Year's prediction?
I just think it's so funny.
I know.
That is the height of your aspiration. Imagine bringing home a deadbeat to meet your parents, and they say, "How are things going career-wise?" "I believe I will still be in this job in 1 year's time."
We know that Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham are agitating for themselves to be in his job in a year's time. Both of them are banging on about rejoining the customs union. That was an interesting newsline in that interview, to be fair. This idea of the Prime Minister now flirting once again with some kind of EU reset on top of his own attempted reset, which hasn't gone very well. Mm-hmm. Quite how that appeals to Labour voters in the Red Wall, God only knows. And then this extraordinary situation. Wasn't there something uniquely humiliating about Britain being completely frozen out of the actions against Maduro over the weekend?
So I don't think it's uniquely. I will give Britain that. I don't think we're the only ones who were frozen out. But I do agree that Starmer is in an unusually bad situation because he has tried to locate himself between America and Europe. So we all know that he cannot condemn the raid on Venezuela because that would alienate the United States. At the same time, he can't applaud the raid on Venezuela because it goes against everything he, as a human rights lawyer, fan of Davos, international man of mystery, travels the world to these various conventions. It's not something he can possibly endorse at the same time. So he's left, as Darren Jones did on your programme, with just simply explaining to you what has happened in the last 24 hours. It's something unique to politicians. Would you like a cup of tea? Well, in the last 24 hours, of course, you've offered me a cup of tea.
Yes, but I'm not really in a position to say whether or not I want a cup of tea.
The important thing, Camilla, is that tea is being drunk. Let's focus on the future in which tea will be drunk. But would you like one?
Just to qualify this is when I asked Darren Jones whether he supported what Donald Trump had done. And I then got a running commentary of what Donald Trump had done in Venezuela, rather than any commitment from him as an individual cabinet minister or the prime minister or a representative of the Labour government as to whether or not we supported this mission. And let's be honest, the imagery of it was extraordinary. There were shades of tyrant in his pants, you know, Saddam Hussein being toppled, to see Maduro in that extraordinary garb where he basically looked like my son playing on a VR with the sort of blindfold that resembled a pair of 1980s sunglasses, ear mufflers on, presumably to stop him and his wife from finding out where they were being escorted to by the US military.
I watched it thinking, could Trump do Britain next?
Well, he set his sights on...
And I'm sure, given that it is apparently a coup perhaps co-organised by the vice president of Venezuela, one wonders if Angela Rayner might put a telephone call into the White House and say, he'll be in his garden on Tuesday. No one will be around. Don't worry, I'll get the security detail the day off.
Yeah, Air Force One hovering above North London and then people parachuting in to collect Keir Starmer. The question is, I mean, I suppose you could make an argument for the removal of Maduro. You know, at least everyone knows what Maduro is. He's an out-and-out, unashamed, you know, heir of Chavez, socialist stroke communist. unfortunately, Starmer wouldn't provoke any kind of ideological response to even engender a coup, would he? It's like, who is this guy?
Donald Trump is truly following an America First policy here, where he's just doing what he believes is in the long-term interests, economic interests of his own country. And on the one hand, that upends the Western alliance, because there are some commitments that Europe has, say towards Ukraine, that Donald Trump does not feel he shares. And likewise, Europe has commitments towards the rules-based order. Not quite sure what kind of a rules-based order it is when a left-wing dictator can just steal elections, but Europe wants to uphold the rules-based order, and Donald Trump doesn't care about the rules if they stand in his way. Now, Keir Starmer has hitched everything onto, I'm the Trump whisperer.
Yes.
I'm the one who can get on well with this man, and I can flatter him back into the NATO alliance and keep him on board with Ukraine. Well, the problem is that Venezuela completely upends that. It proves that America's not talking to Britain. I'm sure Britain's advice, had it been asked, would have been completely different, and it would have been totally ignored.
Well, it would have been Lord Hermer's advice, which is don't meddle with anything that might compromise international law.
Right. But the point is that Britain has only been getting on well with Donald Trump insofar as it flattered everything Donald Trump did. And this is something which has been noticed by the left. Ed Davey asks this question now almost every week at PMQs. When are you going to split with Trump, and when are you going to rejoin the customs union?
Yes.
Well, I think there's probably a growing number, especially post-Venezuela, because a lot of people in the Labour Party love Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor, and admire Maduro.
Jeremy Corbyn.
They'll be thinking, why are we allied with this rogue state? Why aren't we talking about going back in with Europe? And the answer to that, of course, and Keir Starmer has given it, is because I've done a trade deal with America. And Starmer may not be economically super hot, but he's not a fool. He does know that the future is AI. Britain is a services economy, and it means regulatory or deregulatory alignment with America, not with Europe. So we find ourselves in this very strange no man's land of, on the one hand, sympathizing with the legalistic liberal values of Europe, and on the other hand, knowing that our future lies with America. And the result is our Prime Minister is just left mute, dumb. There's nothing he can say.
Well, also just weakened, because whether or not you agree with Donald Trump, at least he has been unequivocal. You know, we've had over the course of the Christmas and New Year holidays these two foreign affairs concerns, the situation in Venezuela and then Iran. I was staggered to discover that Keir Starmer has kept up the post celebrating the return of the Egyptian activist stroke anti-Semite stroke self-confessed racist.
Wow. So that's what he doubles down on.
Yeah, so
not
Mr.
winter
El
fuel,
Fattah,
not the farmer's tax.
Yes.
He's doubling down on letting Fatah into the country.
Into the country. And according to number 10 sources, he is still welcome in the country, even though the Prime Minister has conceded that the warmth of the welcome was perhaps overstated.
Right.
And had they known what journalists were able to discover within 2 minutes of doing a Google search on this bloke, then they might not have been quite so effusive.
Previously known because he was denied a prize because of his public statements.
So he keeps that post on X. There is nothing from the Prime Minister. Oh, or, by the way, his equally liberal and democratic compadre, Ed Davey, on the plight of Iranians.
Right.
On the persecuted and tortured young women who have been trying collectively to overthrow the Ayatollah, removing hijabs, performing dances and gymnastics in the streets. And frankly, their shameful silence on both issues is only matched by the indifference of the largely white liberals who cannot say anything or march in support at all of Iranians who are actually aligned with Israelis in wanting to seek some kind of Middle Eastern democracy out of the hell that they've endured since 1979. Nothing from the progressives, nothing from the celebrity lovies on any of these issues. And now we've got the same types who refuse to celebrate those trying to overthrow the Islamic regime criticising Trump's colonialism, even though Venezuelans have been celebrating the demise of Maduro in the streets. So apparently white liberals know better than Venezuelans.
There were a couple of excellent articles over the winter period. One was by Paul Ovenden, He's an advisor who lost his job over a salty joke about Diane Abbott.
Yes.
And who now is very much getting his own back, and wrote an excoriating article explaining that Britain is in the grips of something he called the stakeholder state, of which Keir Starmer is the prime example. This is a state which is run, he says, not so much by the civil service, but by a coalition of activist groups, causes, celebrities,
yes,
and all those types, who force it to follow their interests and obsess about their concerns. And he gives Fatah, he says, when he was working in office, he was stunned by the number of times Fatah came up, and it became something of a running joke. And it was an example of how a cause can overwhelm the civil service, even though it has no basis in the public interest. And of course, I guess the flip side of that is if you don't have an activist group on your side, if you don't have people pushing for you, like I doubt that within the Foreign Office there are a lot of people pushing for freedom for Venezuela, right? There are a lot of people pushing for regime change in Iran. If you don't have that, then you're not going to get the outcome that you might want.
Yes.
Another really good piece that was written over the winter was by Aaron Bastani, who has been on this show, the Marxist, who wrote a superb takedown of what's going to be a major issue this year for Keir Starmer, which is the English local government reform.
Yes.
Which has resulted in some cases in historic municipalities being joined together who have nothing in common, Portsmouth and Southampton. It's resulted in very expensive bureaucratic refits, and it's also meant that elections have been cancelled, which is going to be a sort of democratic crisis. People are going to notice this when it finally creeps up on them. And he points out in this piece that the whole idea was dreamt up by PricewaterhouseCoopers. That it was a private company was asked for its advice. Stakeholders, state people took it on. And then having taken it on, to be fair to PwC, it laid out how you could do this in such a way as to save money. But partly because of pressure, they didn't want to amalgamate certain places, they have lowered the threshold for how many people should be in these new bodies. And the result is they might not even get the savings they want. And Bastani sums this up really well. He says it distills so much about our political class. You identify a genuine existing problem, the expensive nature of local government, adopt a technocratic blueprint devised by consultants, implement the whole thing with maximum incompetence. Yes. And so what is Starmer hoping is going to happen this year? He's hoping that all of the horrible things his Chancellor have done to us over the last 18 months are going to finally pay off. The wind turbines are finally going to somehow result in the lowering of energy prices, that all things are going to stabilize and we're going to start to feel the benefits. He doesn't seem to realize that not only has he piled on the damage, but he is not the man to reform the stakeholder state. Because he's one of the stakeholders.
Yes, he's got skin in the game.
Yes.
Also, the disconnect between the Prime Minister's wishful thinking and the public thinking was probably best demonstrated at the darts, when the final on Saturday, which saw Luke Littler win for a second time the World Championship, was dominated by... I'm not going to repeat the chants about Keir Starmer, but they weren't pretty. And I think the Ali Pali crowd basically sums up the sentiment of most people in Britain, which is that when the Prime Minister speaks, the public looks and sees a deluded man on his last legs, spouting, self-congratulatory nonsense.
Yes, I'm afraid he hangs over this country like a dark cloud. And that same way in every new year, you want to start with clean teeth like your cat.
Yes.
Or you want to start with the decorations put away and the house all tidy. And then you realize, I've still got to take that delayed train into work. I'm still living with this person I hate.
I know, but also
and it's the same with the Prime Minister. You think, and I've still got Keir Starmer as Prime Minister.
Yeah, I know.
I can't move on with my life because Keir Starmer is running my country.
Yes, this Labour Prime Minister is for life, not just for Christmas, or at least for the next 4 years. So the Prime Minister's feeling positive, or so he says. The public rather less so. Just 9% say that they think 2026 will be fairly or very good, according to YouGov. 9%.
It's quite high.
I
thought that was quite high when I heard that.
Did you? Yeah. I mean...
I thought a thing's so bad that we've got 9% of people working in the public sector.
I
think actually the figure's much bigger than that.
I know, even people in the public sector.
So he's even
don't
losing
like Keir Starmer.
The public sector.
Wow.
If you're enjoying our journalism, why not sign up to From the Editor, our free email newsletter? Start your day with the latest news and opinion, plus our bite-sized puzzles. Scan the QR code to sign up free today.